Hello everyone, welcome to Barca News. It is June 8th of 2025 and the president of the Royal Spanish Football Federation, Rafael Luzan, looking to completely overhaul the refereeing system in Spain. Also, Frenkie de Jong has confirmed his intention to renew his contract with Barcelona. And finally, Barcelona fear that Fermin Lopez might want to leave. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Mo. We'll begin this video with the great news that I forgot to mention in yesterday's video, but nonetheless it should be mentioned because it is great news. And the news is that the Barcelona Femení yesterday became the Spanish Copa de la Reina champions or campeonas after defeating Atletico de Madrid 2-0 in the final. And with this, the Barcelona Femení wrap up an incredible season, a successful season where just like the men's team, they won 3 domestic trophies. They won La Liga F, or the Women's League. They won the Copa de la Reina, which is the women's version of the Copa del Rey. And they also won the Spanish Super Cup. Now, unfortunately, the women's team did lose the final in the Champions League, so they weren't able to take home a treble, where the men weren't able to, classify to the final. So I guess this year or this season, only the Juvenil A, or the under-19 youth team, will be the only team taking home a European trophy because they did win the Youth Champions League, aside from winning their group league and also their Youth Copa del Rey. So the Juvenil A have actually won their treble. So congratulations to them. And of course, congratulations to the Barca Femení for winning the Copa de la Reina. And hopefully next season, both the men and the women's team will be able to take home the Champions League. All right, let's move on to the next bit of news because, ladies and gentlemen, the Royal Spanish Football Federation's president, Rafael Luzan, wants to overhaul refereeing in Spain and wants to implement a system similar to that one in England and also in Germany. Now, you might ask, Mo, what are you talking about? How are referees managed in England? Well, let's review or recap real quick because in England, referees are managed by the Professional Game Match Officials Limited, or otherwise known by its initials PGMOL. And this is a completely independent organization. It is funded by proceeds made from competitions like the Premier League, but overall it's a completely independent organization that's ran by former referees, and it's in charge of training, developing, and monitoring referees. And it's also in charge of assigning referees to all different matches throughout all different competitions in England, like the Premier League, the FA Cup, the EFL, etc., etc. And the way they assign referees, it's based on a complex formula which takes into consideration the history of that specific ref, the performance of that specific ref, and what is the likelihood of the two teams facing each other that both of them will end up pissed off at whatever decision that ref might make. Now, again, this is a completely independent organization. It's ran by former referees, and it's in charge of everything when it comes to referees in England. And this has seemed to work in England and Germany. So Rafael Luzan wants to do the same. Now, currently, the way it works in Spain, the Royal Spanish Football Federation is the one that oversees referees in Spain. They do have kind of a board called the Committee of Referees, or the CTA as it's known by Spanish initials. So Rafael Luzan wants to make or manage referees, to have them managed by a completely independent organization, because again, right now the CTA is not independent. Right now the CTA is under the auspices of the Royal Spanish Football Federation. So Luzan wants to take a page from the playbook in England and wants to create a separate independent organization that's ran by former referees, and that organization be in charge of training, developing refs, and also assigning refs to matches. And I have to say, I gotta applaud this because, as we've seen time and time again, refereeing in Spain needs a complete overhaul. I think we have referees who are very, very mediocre. Refereeing in Spain overall is very, very mediocre, and that cannot happen in a league that aspires to be the best league in the world. Now, so far, so good, right? We're good. We're all for this change. We like it. It's time for a change. God. This is where the news kind of goes sideways, because lots of names have been offered as far as people that could end up running this separate independent organization once is created. And one of the names that have been offered is Mateo Laos. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Mateo Laos, the former referee who was pain in the ass for Barcelona for many, many years, cost Barcelona a league title. He himself admitted in an interview that he ended up, counting a goal that Messi scored against Atletico Madrid as offside, even though it was perfectly legal. And that goal could have meant the difference between Barcelona winning the league, which they did it. Atletico Madrid ended up winning it. So he actually cost Barcelona a La Liga title. He's always been in a pain for Barcelona. And in fact, he got kicked out of the World Cup by FIFA after that fiasco that he had in the match between Argentina and the Netherlands, where he broke a record for most yellows in a single match. And he's one of the many names being considered for this organization. So already, the organization doesn't exist yet. We're already off to a bad start. Now, hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully Laos does not get a foot in that door, because my God, this guy should just be kept away from anything that has to do with refereeing or with power in Spanish football, because we all know the clown that he is. All right, let's move on to the next bit of news, because Frenkie de Jong has confirmed that yes, indeed, he wants to renew with Barcelona, when he said the following: I think I'm going to renew for Barca. I can't be 100% sure, but if everything goes well, it will be done. My intention is to renew this summer, but we will see what happens. It is a negotiation, and you can't say exactly when. The important thing is that both parties want it, and I think we will reach an agreement. So there you have it, folks. Frenkie de Jong confirming that he wants to stay. Barcelona want him to stay. Both parties want to continue the relationship together. Both parties are negotiating, so he thinks that the renewal will happen. Of course, saying he can't say 100% sure, because negotiations can always go sideways. But overall, Frenkie de Jong expressing his desire to stay in Barcelona and expressing his faith that the renewal will go through. Now, I do want to ask you guys this question, so let me know in the comment section. Do you want to see Frenkie de Jong renewed? Because on one hand, I'm not completely sold on the renewal. Now, I have made these points before. A lot of times I've said that Frenkie de Jong has been highly inconsistent throughout all his years at Barcelona, especially when you take into consideration how much we paid for his transfer, how much we paid him in salary. But even setting that aside, the reason why I'm still not fully sold, because even though Frenkie de Jong did have a really good season under Hansi Flick, we are trying to build a team with young players. We're trying to remove kind of like the older players, the old guard players who have bloated salaries, like Ter Stegen, for example. And Frenkie de Jong is one of those, right? He's been at the club for many years. He has a very bloated salary. And then, you have to think about players like Bernal and Casado, because having someone like Frenkie de Jong, who's a captain, who most likely is going to be, chosen over those two, that could limit the growth and development of Bernal and Casado. And since we have Bernal and Casado who could do that job that Frenkie does, I start to wonder, do we really need Frenkie? Because Frankie's not going to renew for a year or two. He's going to want a 4 or 5 year contract. And then what happens 3 years down the road when Bernal and Casado are fully grown, mature, and they're, now they're taking the spot of Frenkie? Are we going to be doing the same thing as Ter Stegen, where we're going to be trying to push him out, offering him a full year salary so he can leave? I don't know. Those are kind of the things I was thinking on top of my head when I read this news, but I do want to hear you guys' thoughts, so let me know down below. Do you think Barcelona should renew Frenkie de Jong? Yes, no? Let me know your reasons. All right, let's end this video with the news that Barcelona have a little bit of concerns when it comes to Fermin Lopez. Now, as I reported yesterday, Chelsea made an offer, well, 2 offers. The first one was 70 million euros for Fermin Lopez, and in case Barcelona did not want to accept the 70 million euros, Chelsea also offered Nkunku in exchange for Fermin Lopez. 2 offers that Barcelona said, thank you, but no thank you, because we want to keep Fermin Lopez. And before that, Bayern Munich had approached the player declaring their interest, which that interest was also rejected. And despite the rejection of these offers or this interest, Barcelona, some sources at the club are stating that there's a little bit of worry as far as Fermin Lopez. Now, what am I talking about? Barcelona have no intention of selling Fermin. The only way that they would sell Fermin is if Fermin himself went to the club and said, hey, put me on the market. Fermin Lopez has stated time and time again that he wants to stay at the club. But despite that, despite both parties wanting to continue their relationship together, some people at the club are worried that maybe Fermin Lopez might eventually go to Barca and say, hey, put me on the market. Because A, all these clubs are offering him a lot more money than Barcelona. But B, which is the more important point, is that, with the signing of Dani Olmo, now we're talking about signing a left winger, which means Rafinha would move over to the attacking midfield position. That position is starting to become more and more crowded, which means that Fermin will have more and more limited minutes. So right now, nothing has happened. Nothing has transpired. Okay, let's just make that clear. Fermin wants to stay at Barca. Barca want him to stay. But some people at Barca are starting to worry that, what if Fermin comes and says, hey, put me on the market? Doesn't look like I'm going to get any minutes here. All right, that is all for this video. I will upload another video in a little bit, so stay tuned to the channel. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. And as always, Visca Barça.